Like Planet X is coming. When this planet crosses our orbit, that we have another catastrophic event of a flooding or a massive we flooding. Could be in a physical form for hundreds of thousands of years. Like,
yeah, it blows our minds. You can fit 3.5 Earths inside of that red dot on Jupiter.
It grabbed my attention of seeing all of these holes that I had questions about kind of line up with, some science behind it. I mean, this is like, okay, they discovered another planet just recently, has a weird orbit like they described in the book. Oh, the mitochondria linked to that place in Africa. Oh, they just discovered these gold mines that they think are at least 200,000 years old. Like, I mean, these are things that are like, okay, if what we're finding literally in the last 10 years, from Gilgamesh's tomb to all these other things to they just discovered a lot of the biblical cities in the recent years. They didn't know that. They thought that those were all fantasies and stories.
Right. And they didn't even stop looking for some of them.
And then now they're uncovering them and they're finding it as our technology is becoming more advanced. They can notice these ruins and other things and far-reaching jungles and other places where, or under the sea that they didn't notice or they couldn't have the capability to find or discover before.
Right.
And there was a belief system in their mind that this was all fantasy anyways.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly they're all like, so if some of the things, I just beg people to ask, or to kind of ask the question, if some of the things that have been written about, whether in the Bible or whether in the Sumerian texts and tablets, if some of those things have proved to be reality, why wouldn't most of it or all of it be reality? Most people, when they write, they either write, fiction or nonfiction, right? It's either stories and allegories or it's facts and tales of truth and reenactments or that,
Absolutely. Either way, there's still inspiration.
Yeah, but they don't tend to really bounce back and forth within the same text. It's like, okay, this is things that really happen. Then they don't get into like, oh, this is just a fantasy tale. And then this isn't, this is, and so I can't help but to think that maybe all of it could be real. And maybe, but we're supposed to be finding out soon anyways, right? Like Planet X is coming. And if Planet X is coming, that means that this planet that houses the alleged Anunnaki are going to be close to us again. And if they're close to us again, one, it's going to be super weird if we see this planet. Maybe we're also having a climate shift and a warming of our climate. Are we going to put ourselves at risk that when this planet crosses our orbit, that we have another catastrophic event of a flooding or a massive flooding? Because how it describes it is that a sheet of ice, because of the ice, the climate was warming, fell into the ocean and created a tsunami with 80-foot waves. The interesting thing is, why are they saying all this? 80-foot waves, tsunami. I mean, I don't know if it would, but it measured back to feet or whatever. But they're giving pretty specifics,
Yeah, and that's something that's very true, and I think it's something that we probably, because of the advent of the internet and things like that, where it seems like more people have kind of been understanding this more relatively, but more recently, because I think this information is getting out in a much more palatable way. But there are. And you're absolutely right. The numbers, the measurements that are out there are just insanely accurate. I mean, look at the three pyramids in Egypt in the Valley of the Kings. It's just like how close they are to the stars that they are directed towards, and that's something we would have a sincerely difficult time doing with our technology today.
These were supposed to be primitive humans.
Absolutely, moving all those bricks and blocks with pulleys and levers. I don't the
other thing is like, this is. Think about all of the things that the Sumerian culture brought us.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
They brought us. They brought us. Yeah, they brought us that. They brought us the calendar. They brought us our thing of time. They brought us the invention of currency. They did They had a hierarchy of rules. They had marriage and divorce things that went on. So they had modern government. That was one of the foundations of Mesopotamia and the Sumerian culture. It was the first written language. Okay, so they have written language. They had that. They had agriculture and pharmaculture. They invented the calendar with precise accuracy, and they were the ones with 60 seconds in a minute and this and 24 hours in a day and da 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 da. Created all of that. The wheels, the pulleys, modern machinery. Look these things up. They like have a list of like 50 things that we use in modern.
They're still viable even to this day. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how did we go from nothing to like massive structured democratic society and writing and language?
Absolutely. I mean, this really shows in contrast when you look at your phone and realize how many updates you've had to receive recently. And these systems are still in place from way back then. It's phenomenal. Now, I can also understand.
And they say that they also wrote about all the planets in our galaxy.
Oh yeah,
and it was like
even in artwork, sculptures.
And I mean there's like this one plaque type stone thing. I forgot what it's called, but they show the sun in the middle with all the planets around it, and it's like the same number of planets if you include
Pluto.
if you include Pluto and Planet X or the new.
Planet. Oh, that's right. Yeah, but 10.
Yeah, and so it's on there, and they're different sizes and they're different dynamic, and they put it in more like one circle, but they're dotted, and it's like, But they talk about these different planets. They talk about, and they even talked about there's a theory that they have about how there was actually a 10th planet. Okay. Oh, fact. I like the science behind this. Okay. So scientists have come up with the way that where water is found in other regions and around other suns is that it measures out between like 2,000 and 5,000 AUs from the sun. Okay. So not 2,000, I think 5,000 would, don't mark me on this, but the Earth is 1 AU. Okay. And this belt of where water, so it doesn't melt away from the sun when it's forming, when it's becoming like super unstable, when a sun after like a little explosion, all the mass and stuff like that. So in other areas, they haven't detected any possibility of water until like what they theorize is that it's like it's in this range of like 5 AUs out. And that is the range, whatever the other AU is, but up to 5 AUs or something like that. And that is where water starts to be found in different galaxies. The sun's only at 1, our Earth is only at 1. Okay. So with that and where it is, that's where our asteroid belt is. Okay. Our asteroid belt is composed of all water molecule asteroids. They have high intensity of water, okay? And there are these little water balls, right, floating around, okay? There is a way that mathematically the equation that lines up for the space that planets are supposed to be spaced apart, that it seems like there's a formula. And there should be a planet located in our asteroid belt. And it's not, okay? And they wonder, why is it all this rubbish that is circling there where planets should be, okay? And so there's a theory that they haven't been able to kind of fully understand our Earth and the closeness of our Earth and why it would have water on it in the way that it does. And Mars is another one too. So they could be part of the same. But there's a theory that there was an actually 10th planet.
Yes. And
this 10th planet orbited in this area. And due to our wonderful Anunnaki planet coming through, Nibiru, I can never say the name right, so I've been Planet X, whatever. So it comes around and it ruins everything in the galaxy, causes everything to go off kilter. But if you follow that as a possibility and open mind for science, it explains all of the things that we can't explain. Why is Uranus turned on its side, right? And it has this weird
the rings. Why is that kind
it's upside? It's like this instead of right like this, and it has a weird tilt to it that matches none of the other planets. Interesting. And so they feel like maybe it could have gotten pulled with some kind of gravitational pull to be turned, right? So if this planet came in, or if it got hit with another planet and came in and it shattered some of it, and then part of it became dislodged, part of that became Earth and the moon. And that's why the Earth and the moon are made of the same material. Right. So that there was this collision that happened, and that's where the remaining of it is in the astral belt. And then our Earth and our moon are part of this remnants.
Right.
And we suddenly got flung into 1 AU away from the sun. And the interesting thing about it is this might be why the Earth is such a special planet. Because there's a lot of like spiritual kind of beliefs and teachings that Earth is like nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I always said, well, if there's all these other stars in the sky, there's got to be lots of different Earths. But I didn't know the science behind a water-forming planet never happens that close to the sun. And so we have this amazing tropical landscapes and beauty and different diversity of life. And we have this rich water planet in a not natural close position to the sun. And if this did happen and this collision happened, that would be such a rare event for a collision to have to happen and hit just right to pull one planet into a new orbit and to create this new mass and this new planet. So if that could be like our Earth could be one in like God knows what measuring system, that out of all of those, galaxies that are out there, that we really have one of the rarest ecosystems in the whole universe.
Just how unique it is. Yeah. That I could see that. I could see where that would be. And, I guess kind of one thing that's sort of, that I'm curious about, and I have heard that the moon and the Earth were kind of like of the same material and split apart due to a cataclysmic kind of collision. But the water that is on Earth, and I guess in liquid form, at least now, maybe it was first at one point, but for the proximity of the moon and the Earth, why would the Earth's water be more liquid, whereas the moon is pretty much a desert? There has been, well, actually, and this might explain it, because there are seas. There's a sea of tranquility there, and there are things that or land masses that we've identified as being places where water had been. But the fact that it doesn't have an atmosphere might actually be the reason why. So that just kind of went out into space. So that, I guess I kind of answered my own.
Which is why they needed to mine for gold, is they were having an atmosphere problem, right? And so they knew, based on their long lifespans and traveling around, that without that, they were going to become a dry, desolate planet, right? Without life form. Sure. And so it's just, so in these tablets, it describes this 10th planet. It describes this process of how it came through and created mass destruction on the rest of the planets and created everything that is. So, it's just, again, it goes for that question. If some of these things line up and are true and can be proved, like mind-blowing proof, like kind of stuff of like, that goes on, whether it's the gold mine or the mitochondria or the different things like that, but, or even just the understanding of our solar system on this level, right? Like we have this solar system and this galaxy that like our unique solar system, our unique sun, our unique things, like it's just, I don't know.
It's very, very elusive and very intriguing to to just kind of, again, to take into consideration all of those possibilities, the idea of magnitude, even within our own solar system. You can fit 3.5 Earths inside of that red dot on Jupiter. Like that's just that tiny little red dot, which is a storm that's been raging for, and I forget how long, but like way longer than what we in this incarnation of human, species, what we've been around for. It's been going on for like ages. That storm has been, and the fact that it is larger, over 3 times larger than our entire planet. Yeah. Again, just the concept of that is.
Yeah, and it's about
remarkable.
It's about finding those other concepts, right? Like people can't like fathom how could somebody live, hundreds of thousands of years. Well, like our lifespan compared to a fly.
Exactly. Yeah. The fruit fly specifically has a 72-hour.
Yeah, it's like hours. It's like, and it goes through its whole life, and birth, growth, reproduction, and death, all in a matter of.
Absolutely.
And it probably wouldn't have that same experience, right? And so how can we? I mean, look at like things like some of the tortoises that, live for hundreds of years and stuff like that, so their lifespan's a lot longer than ours, right?
Yeah.
And
some parrots, but yeah.
And then we have this certain lifespan, but we can't help but to always see things through our lens. And so we think, oh, well, this is how our life is. And most of the animals that live on the planet live within our lifespan or live shorter lifespans.
Right.
And so the thought process that we could be in a physical form for hundreds of thousands of years, like,
yeah, blows our minds. To a certain degree, I think that there are many who don't even want to think about that, because in terms of how the human body progresses and ages and or even decays, while it's still alive, but starts to break down, nobody would want to be in that state for hundreds of thousands of years. But what if it wasn't that quick, that state, it didn't come on, it just hit my 65th birthday or 70th birthday and I'm getting a little ache, like that could be, you might start having your first tooth come in at 70 years old for some of these species out there.
Yeah.
That's how broad, this perspective shift could be. And
I like that, your first tooth coming in at 70 years old. But I mean, it's true. And you look at like our measure of our time and things like that. And also there's so many factors that go into aging, right? It's been long talked about how like out in space, the astronauts don't age in the same time frame as here, right. That there's like this almost stopping. And even there's been some movies that talk about that, what is it, like Interstellar?
I just saw Interstellar like 2 weekends ago for the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and he's like out in space and on Earth, everything else has changed and all the lives go, but he hasn't aged at all. And he's, his like daughter's old now and he's, and
he's still driving a Lincoln.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. Is that right?
but it's like, it's like, we only know our lifespan based on our perception, but we also don't know the gravitational force and the elements and the proximity that our environment causes on our aging too, right?
Absolutely.
And so
stress levels.
And so if it's already been kind of proven that in an anti-gravity space or out in space, on the space, like they have a different type of aging process, right? Like that's been talked about. It's been public knowledge,
Absolutely. So
it makes sense that, I mean, I can't even like, I can, but I can't, but imagine going like 365 days to go around the sun, right? This is 3,600 years to go around the sun.
Yeah.
Not 3,600 days, 3,600 years measured in our time frame. What? Like to do one orbit?
Yeah.
Like, I just wonder what other kind of animal species are on that planet and what that's like.
Really patient ones.
Really patient. Oh man. So maybe we'll find out in our lifetime, because allegedly they're coming back.
Yeah, supposedly. Get the party
started.
Stocked.
But like I said, I was saying that, like, now with our global warming, that brings me back to that point, that there's a couple kind of things that they could be coming back, checking on us when they're back in a close proximity, seeing what the species that they created looks like, maybe feeling sorry for us for some of the destruction and the negative attributes that we had in society and through our creation, that they activate us and they teach us new ways, maybe even live among us for a while again. That would be interesting. I would love to see that in my lifetime. And, I don't think these are going to come in and they're going to try to kill us or conquer us. I mean, we're their creation, and they've tried to help us throughout history. So I don't think you'd have to fear that. But one thing that is a fear that pops up in different kind of belief systems is if this planet is coming around and we are having this climate warming situation happen and these ice caps are melting. And this is what the story of Noah's Ark was written about, as far as from their angle, from their point of view, right? And that this ice sheet fell into the ocean because of the gravitational pull that was going on the planet while it passed, causing, a more turbulent type of thing than creating that tsunami. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be doomsday here, but there could be a big possibility that as this planet orbits, that we have another big, massive tsunami and flood and change and stuff happen. And so I think maybe we are prepared, and I'm sure that they're far more advanced at this point in time than they were, 200,000 years ago or whatever, whenever that said would happen 100,000 years ago or whatever. But what could that look like, right? So I think that there's a lot of curiosity, and I don't know whether their orbit hits on a certain way, depending on how our orbit is every single time when it passes, because I'm sure it can't pass at the same exact moment because it's not having the same exact type of years every time, right? So our Earth could be over here, and then this could be over here, and then a different year, this could be over here, and our Earth over here, so it's a little closer. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how every year Thanksgiving falls on a different day. It's like the same kind of thing. It's like it's a little different because we're rotating around, and it's rotating around, and at the same time, it might not hit the same place, right?
Yeah, an environmental deviation. And that makes sense. That could happen.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Tune in for more later. Do you have anything else to share?
Oh, I just so much. I really need to kind of collect my thoughts a little bit more. But this was great. This was so much fun. Just kind of diving back into this. It's really expansive. If you're at all interested in it, go look it up a little bit. There are great books out there. Of course, you can find all sorts of stuff on the internet. Pick and choose what it is that makes sense to you, But yeah, the Anunnaki is a very interesting subject, just for consideration, if nothing else, as well as Planet X or Nibiru. And I think that you'll find a very interesting read that you're in store for.
Yeah, going down the rabbit hole.